Hello everyone, and welcome back to another pre-recorded lesson video. Hopefully you are keeping up the previous ones because we are flying through these. This module and this last 9 weeks are going to be a little bit different than the other ones just because we're going to be done with this book pretty early on in the lessons. And for the lessons like 20 and on, it's just going to be y'all focusing on the last paper that you have to write, which is a research essay, and that's going to take y'all a good amount of time. So please make sure that you are watching the pre-recorded lesson videos. I know a lot of you don't attend the live classes, and that's perfectly fine because you do have a lot of other work in your other classes. So if you just want to watch the lesson videos and do your assignments, that is perfectly fine with me. Just make sure that you are keeping up with the lesson videos and your assignments and that you are asking questions if you need help, right? Because I am always here for you and I will always be here to answer your questions, okay? So for today, the welcome activity for today is I want y'all to think about what you have learned about what defines and shapes a sense of self. Y'all may have heard sense of self and remember it from the first 9 weeks whenever we were at the crossover and we talked about Josh Bell's sense of self, right? Sense of self is basically what makes you you, right? It makes a person, right? It's their personal identity, whether it just be your personality, how you look like, your family and friends around you, your interests, your hobbies, your emotions. It is everything that makes you you and what makes you unique, right? Because there is no one else in the world that is like you. Everyone is unique in their own different way. So what we're going to be looking at today is we are going to be focusing on Claudette Colvin's sense of self and the sense of self of some of our other classmates. Right, so the content framing question for lesson 4 is what does a deeper exploration of injustice reveal? And remember, injustice means anything that's not fair, something that's not right, right? The crime doesn't fit the the punishment doesn't fit the crime, right? So we're going to be looking at injustice. That's what chapter 3 really goes into. And the learning goal for today is we're going to explain the circumstances that contributed to Claudette Colvin's motivation to create change, right? We're going to see a change in Claudette Colvin. In chapter 2, we sort of went into her childhood and all the racism and the hardships that she faced. Now we're going to go into her change into being a very strong and a person that's willing to fight for what's right, okay? So chapter 3, and remember, like always, go into today's folder, which is going to be the 3:30 folder, March 30, and watch the reading video of chapter 3 because I know a lot of you don't have the physical copy of the book, which is fine. So watch the read aloud videos, and if you do not want to watch those videos and you like your own physical copy, come up to the school, come up to the front office anytime, Monday, Friday, anytime, Monday through Friday, before 4 p.m. and you can go get that, okay? So after you watch that video, I want you to define a sense of self for Claudette Colvin and some of her classmates. In chapter 3, it really talks about Claudette and how some of the popular girls in her school look. And a lot of them talk about having straight hair, and they describe it as almost white hair, right? Claudette gets very self-conscious about her hair and the color of her skin because she describes herself as darker than her classmates. Her self-confidence at this point is pretty low, right? She doesn't think of herself as very, in the traditional sense, pretty, because back then the beauty standard or what people thought was beautiful was considered trying to be as close to white as possible. And Claudette goes into that and how it affects her confidence, how it affects her life, because she's at a pretty low point in her life right now, right? Her sister just died in the previous chapter. She's struggling with confidence and trying to compare herself to other people, right? So the one good thing in Claudette's life so far is school and her studies. She takes her studies very serious. She considers herself a very hard worker, and that also defines a sense of self for Claudette. Because remember, that's also a personality type, and a hobby that she has is she loves studying and she loves crocheting, right? So it's not always bad, but she is at the time where there is a lot of self doubt and some confidence issues, right? She's 15, she's around y'all's age, and being a young teenager, everyone goes through that, right? Everyone goes through the self doubt issues, confidence issues, comparing yourself to others. And just remember, Claudette finally figures it out, and I hope you all figure it out as well. Of knowing that you are unique. Don't compare yourself to other people, because if someone's better than you at one thing, you are better than them at other things, right? No one in the world is alike. Everyone is different. Make sure that you feel that you are valued for what you do and who you are, because you have something to offer the world that no one else does, right? The most important thing that you can learn is self-love, loving yourself, accepting yourself, right? Because again, no one in the world is exactly like you. You are unique, you are different, and that is a good thing, right? And Claudette figures that out herself as well. I want you to look at some of these ads that I included in today's folder as well. Actually, I want to, my bad. I want to start with this one. This ad is promoting a hair gel or a hair pomade. It says models can't take chances. Their hair must look extra lovely all the time. What else is there? This is basically saying like straight hair. Like it's a way to straighten out your hair and make your curly, hard to manage hair naturally soft, lustrous, and inviting to touch, right? Because Claudette mentions in chapter 3 that the girls that were the most popular in the school were the ones with straight hair, right? Claudette has very naturally curly hair, and that wasn't the standard beauty standard back then, right? This other ad is right here. It says, bring new beauty to hard to manage hair. Straighten super curly hair safely without damage. And we all know that's probably a lie, right? Anytime you need to straighten super curly hair, you're damaging it a little bit, especially if you're applying heat. So these ads were taken from the 1960 issue of Ebony magazine. Ebony means a deep, lustrous black. So this is a magazine specifically tailored to a tailored more towards Black Americans back then. It is one of the most popular magazines in America. It was founded in 1945 and has over 1.8 million readers. Obviously, all magazines right now are sort of suffering because not a lot of people keep reading magazines, but this was one of the more popular magazines. And it's a little bit ironic that these ads were promoting sort of making your hair, like in Claudette's own words, almost white. But this was a magazine specifically tailored toward Black women, right? And getting them to straighten their hair and make it look more manageable, more like a model, more perfect, if you will, right? So what is the implied message that these ads are selling to Black women? The implied message is basically saying you won't be considered beautiful or you won't be considered perfect unless you have straight, soft hair, right? Obviously, again, Claudette deals with this a lot. She worries about her hair, but she does eventually figure out that that's not that important, right? And what do the ads and products promote as the values that shape or should shape a Black woman's sense of self? It is essentially ruining their own sense of self, right? Is critiquing them, making them self-conscious about their curly hair, their naturally curly hair, and is basically saying that you should make your hair almost white, straight, soft, so that you can be considered beautiful. And they're basically saying that you can't be considered beautiful unless you have hair like this. So it is breaking people down, making them doubt themselves on what is considered beauty, if that makes sense. So as y'all are watching that video, I want you to focus on these specific pages. And there's a character that comes up named Jeremiah Reeves, and something happens to him in the chapter that changes Claudette forever. So Jeremiah Reeves is a 16-year-old that goes to Claudette's school, and she lives basically in the same neighborhood as Claudette. Oh, he lives basically in the same neighborhood as Claudette does. He's a very popular kid. He's a drummer. He's in a band. He plays for the church. He dresses well. And people just like him. He's a very nice kid. What happens to Jeremiah Reeves is he gets accused by the police of raping a white woman. And the police question him, and then they charge him with 6 more counts of rape against white women. And nobody thinks Jeremiah Reeves did it because, again, it's just not something he would do. But the police essentially torture Jeremiah Reeves to get him to confess falsely. And what happens is they get a confession out of him by torturing him falsely, right? He didn't really do it. And what happens is they put him on death row. He is set to die by electric chair, and he has to wait until he is 21 until they can get that done. Before that time, though, the whole community fights, right? Claudette joins that fight. She considers this a turning point in her life. And a turning point, as a definition, is a time at which a decisive change in a situation occurs, especially one with beneficial results. Claudette stops worrying about what's happening at school, what other people think of her, and she starts worrying about Jeremiah Reeves. She attends rallies, she marches, she gets donations, she volunteers her extra time. She gets very angry with the treatment of Jeremiah Reeves and decides that something needs to change. And they get a little bit successful, right? Jeremiah Reeves does get convicted by an all-white jury. And what's bad is a jury should be a jury of your peers, right? People that are like you. And his jury turned out to be an all-white jury. And back then in the South, in Montgomery, Alabama, that wasn't a jury of Jeremiah Reeves' peers. And he gets convicted of being guilty. But a couple years later, the Supreme Court, the highest court in all the land, overturns that conviction and says, it wasn't a fair trial. He shouldn't be put on death row. But what ends up happening is the city of Montgomery charge him for other crimes and give him another white jury, and they gave him back the death penalty in 34 minutes of trial time, which, if you guys didn't know, is a very quick trial, was not fair at all. And this essentially breaks Claudette Colvin. She is heartbroken. She's angry. And she comes, she comes to the realization that she's worried about the wrong things. She's basically says, why am I worried on whether or not I'm popular? Why am I worried about my hair and whether it's curly or straight? Why am I worried about all these things, right? Whenever I don't have rights, right? There are bigger things to be worried about. There's bigger things to fight and change. I need to make sure that I have rights first before I'm worried about those things. And the person that really gets her to open her eyes is Miss Nesbitt. And Miss Nesbitt is her class teacher in 10th and 11th grade in her high school. So how does Miss Nesbitt's class change Claudette's perspective? Miss Nesbitt essentially teaches Claudette to accept herself and love herself and love her roots, love her culture. Miss Nesbitt says, hair is hair. Who cares what it looks like? Who cares what color it is? Who cares if it's straight or curly, right? It's your hair. So you can't change it. You should just love it. She also says that about skin color. She says, you can't change the race that you were born. What you can do is make sure that you are getting treated fairly and that you are focused on the things that actually matter. So she gives Claudette a lot of self-confidence, right? She makes Claudette realize that she needs to start loving herself more. She opens Claudette's eyes to a lot of things. Claudette considers Miss Nesbitt a super teacher. She teaches Claudette about the world and the different cultures out there and the different literature. And she essentially gets Claudette to love herself and basically fight. Claudette realizes very quickly after being with Miss Nesbit that change has to happen, and change can only happen if people learn to love themselves, accept themselves, and realize that they deserve better, right? So Miss Nesbit really motivates Claudette to change, really changes Claudette's views of the world and of herself. And Miss Nesbit teaches Claudette a lot about Black history and Black culture, and making and realizing that Black history doesn't just have to be about slavery, right? Ms. Nesbit, there's a quote in the chapter where it says, "Our history isn't just boarding a ship and being in chains," right? There's a before that as well, right? So this really changes Claudette and her perspective of everything, and hopefully you sort of get that, right? Miss Nesbit and Jeremiah Reeves were two big influences and motivations for Claudette, and her motivation to change the world, which she ends up doing. Again, this is a really short chapter. I do want to finish this book by the end of next week, so please make sure that you're keeping up these videos and the reading videos as well. Finish your assignments. I may upload either a quiz over the chapters or another discussion post about segregation that Claudette faces in chapter 3. But that's it for this lesson video. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. But I will see you here. I will see you here for the next one.